Okay, so we've been talking about the visualization for the Refuge practice. And so yesterday we talked about Shakyamuni Buddha in the center, okay, and described what he looks like. And then here it says in the space on his right, although I've often heard it as on a throne on the right. Okay, so I think either way. Sits Maitreya, surrounded by the spiritual mentors of the lineage of extensive deeds. This is often called the vast lineage because it is the bodhisattva conduct that's very vast in terms of benefiting sentient beings throughout the universe by generosity, ethical conduct, patience, kindness, you know, all these kinds of practices to benefit others. So it's the extensive deeds practice. And then around Maitreya are all the lineage from lamas from that lineage. And then to the Buddha's left sits Manjushri, who's the Buddha of wisdom. And that's the wisdom, especially the wisdom that realizes the ultimate nature. Although, of course, it includes all the different kinds of wisdoms, but especially that one. And the spiritual mentors of the lineage of the profound view. So it's called the lineage of the profound view because it's a very profound and correct view of the nature of reality and to be able to have the experience of that directly. And that's what leads us to liberation. In front of Buddha Shakyamuni is my own root spiritual mentor in the aspect of giving teachings. So that's with the right hand like this and the left hand in the lap. Okay? And that's surrounded by all the spiritual mentors with whom I have a Dharma connection. And they're seated upon lotus, sun, and moon. Okay? And then in the space behind Buddha Shakyamuni sits Vajradhara, the victorious lord of myriad tantras, surrounded by the lineage of spiritual mentors of the blessings of the practice. So Vajradhara is the form that the Buddha appeared in when he taught the Tantra, and so all those lamas who teach that, those different tantric practices are there. And then in the four directions around Buddha Shakyamuni, okay, in a ring outside of where the Buddha is and the four groups of teachers, in a ring around that you have the deities Guhya Samaja, Chakrasamvara, Vajrabharava, and Kala Chakra with their mandalas. And then in a ring around them are all the meditational deities. Ring around them the Buddhas. Ring around them the bodhisattvas. The ring around them is the here arhats and solitary realizer arhats. Then another ring with dakas and dakinis, and another ring with the dharma protectors. And then the four directional protectors in innumerable peaceful and wrathful aspects are in their respective seats. So the worldly protectors don't sit on the big throne with all the objects of refuge. They sit below it and are helping to guard the Dharma. Okay. On either side of the lineage, spiritual mentors who conferred empowerment, teaching, and instructions of the Vinaya, Sutra, and Abhidharma and Tantra are splendid stands with their teachings of the Holy Dharma represented by brilliantly radiant texts. Okay? So, when we have the visualization with the Buddha and then the four groups of teachers, that's representing the gurus, then the rings of the meditational deities and the rings of the Buddhas, that's the Buddha jewel that we take refuge in. The Dharma jewel is the texts that are besides, on these stands, besides all these lineage lamas, okay? So the texts that they've written that explain the path to liberation and enlightenment, those texts represent the Dharma jewel. And then the circles of bodhisattvas, arhats, dakas, dakinis, and dharma protectors represent the Sangha jewel, okay? So that's the Sangha jewel. And so thus all space is filled with objects of refuge, okay? So that's good enough for today, huh? But it's nice when you do this visualization because you know, sometimes we might feel like, oh, I'm all alone on the spiritual path and nobody else is interested in Buddhism, and who do I have to talk to about my spiritual yearnings and questions? And when you do this visualization, you see, oh, but there's lots of people who are interested in the Dharma, lots of people who want to talk about the things I want to talk about, lots of people who know more than me that I can learn from. And so then you feel really inspired, and you know, you want to take refuge in them and develop those relationships. So you realize that you aren't all alone in an unwelcoming universe, but the universe is filled with holy beings who are sitting there waiting to help you in the Dharma and share the Dharma with you.